All right, we have more changes unfolding along the U.S. southern border. Changes that have real material consequences now bubbling to the surface. The FBI this week held an emergency meeting with U.S. sheriffs regarding the risk level in this country, the risk level to U.S. cities being off the charts. The director, FBI Director Wray, held this meeting personally, something he doesn't normally do. He did the same thing last week to Congress and earlier this week, warned them of how dangerous things are at the moment. Now, we're going to show you that. And now there's new reporting that a major measles outbreak has just occurred, as these migrant shelters handling the tens of thousands of illegal crossings per day are basically breeding grounds for all types of problems. That many people. Measles is something that basically disappeared from the U.S. for decades. Now all of a sudden it's popping up again. Why? Why do you think? Well, we're going to look at what's happening here. You're going to want to see this, the map of where these outbreaks just happened, how many people, where exactly, and why FBI Director Wray is going around apparently covering his bases. That's what it looks like he's doing anyways. Multiple warnings to all the right places this week. Something you may do if you're worried about something happening and you want to get ahead of it. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. Illegal immigration, it's off the chart. The flow of illegal crossings and entries has barely slowed down from the record month that we saw in December, then January, all-time record months. Well, it's continuing and is now beginning to have these real material consequences. So much so that the FBI this week and last week has been issuing warnings that the threat level is above high, meaning higher than it was even prior to 9/11. Watch this.
The terrorist threat level that we're contending with right now is at a whole nother level from an already heightened terrorist threat level that we were seeing even before October 7th.
We were also told by Mr. Wray, the FBI director, that there are more red flags going off now than before 9/11. Okay? When I say red flags, meaning people that are here in this country that are wanting to do harm to us. We were also explained we're bombing 2 countries right now. 2 countries. These people do not like us before this started. There's thousands of people here from other countries, 160 different countries. They're here not to be our friends. Some of them are coming because they're wanting to come here to the best country in the world, the way we see it. Some are coming here to do harm to us. And we were told by the FBI director, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Now, what that means exactly, what intel they have that tells them that, I don't know. Is it open source intel that they're looking at? Is it intercepted communications from adversaries planning something? I don't know, but I'll tell you what, the last week for the director of the FBI to go around giving voluntary briefings to Congress, seeking out a voluntary briefing and meeting to the 3,300 sheriffs we have in this country, and I'm sure briefing the White House obviously as well, says something, because these aren't flashy press conferences that they're giving. These are low-key briefings that are barely being reported on. Gives me the impression they're there to check a box, ass covering. In the event something did happen that they weren't able to prevent, it'll give Wray and the FBI cover. We were all over this, he'll say. We're working in the background. We informed all relevant parties about the intel we had, etc., that kind of thing, right? Again, that's just the impression I have when reading about this. Then there's the Venezuela angle. Beautiful country, but run by Nicolas Maduro, a self-described socialist, and not this like new age woke democratic socialist type we have in the States, but a real old school socialist, a protege of Hugo Chavez, and we all know how that works out. Rampant inflation, crumbling economy, so it's no surprise Venezuela leads all other countries for immigration to the United States. 340,000 Venezuelans illegally crossed the southern border last year alone, a majority of which were adult men, not women and children. This is where all those stories, by the way, about criminals crossing the border, how they're emptying their prisons and sending them to the U.S., well, in Venezuela, that's really happening. This is where that narrative came from. Homeland Security back in 2022 confirmed Venezuela is releasing violent criminals to the U.S. What they're doing is trying to empty their prisons, saving the money on housing all those inmates, and releasing them under the condition that they immigrate to the U.S.
Can you explain this, why we've got 335,000 people from Venezuela coming to this country and we've only deported 834? And now we know that the Venezuelan authorities are letting out their prisoners. And we're expecting those prisoners to come here. 2 alleged members of this Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, are suspects in the brutal attack on 2 New York City police officers back in January, Senator.
And if that wasn't bad enough, now there's reports that a major measles outbreak has started. Measles is something that was virtually wiped out in the U.S. for decades. Now all of a sudden it's back. I wonder why. Tens of thousands of people flooding through the border each day, making these jungle treks for hundreds of miles, sometimes thousands of miles, some of them coming from countries where these illnesses and infections still occur regularly. And when they cross, no one's screening them before they're released into the interior of the country. CBP and the military aren't doing that. They weren't testing for COVID even, let alone anything else. Here's a map of measles cases this year so far, in 2024 so far, the states where cases have been detected already. Look at this. America on verge of measles mayhem. Hundreds feared to be infected in California and Arizona outbreaks as U.S. suffers years worth of cases in 2 months. Many also feared to be infected in Chicago and Flagstaff, Arizona. Well, Chicago is one of the most sought-after destinations for some reason for a lot of the migrants making the journey to the U.S., at least when they're questioned about where they're headed. The most common answer they give is Chicago. The Daily Mail writes this: America appears to be on the precipice of a major measles outbreak, with cases in the first 2 months of 2024 nearly outpacing the whole of last year. As doctors warn, many young physicians have never even seen a patient infected with the virus. And there's also fears over an outbreak at an 1,800-strong migrant shelter in Chicago. After 4 cases were confirmed, including 2 among children, millions of migrants have also come to America under President Joe Biden's immigration policies, with experts warning that overcrowded shelters and low vax rates in other countries could leave the U.S. vulnerable to outbreaks. The disease is one of the most infectious known to man and is spread via droplets in the air or contaminated surfaces. I don't even remember a time when anyone would worry about measles. Maybe if you're older than me, you do. Here's the cases by week, and realize normally the U.S. may see a few dozen cases per year, if that. We've already seen that this year alone. We're way past that. But now they're saying in California, some 300 people are currently being monitored and warned that they could be infected. The point is, these policies, these border policies, have consequences. Really, the level of people we're seeing this year is at an entirely different level. By the end of March, we're going to have more illegal crossings than we usually do in an entire year. So when you have over 10 million new people entering a society in a matter of 3 years, what do you think is going to happen? It affects everything, the economy, jobs, property, buying houses, education, health, obviously, like we're seeing now, crime. And it's probably why immigration is now the most important election issue for voters. At least that's what Gallup showed in a new poll released last week. Check this out. Immigration surges to top of most important problem list. First-time immigration has been the single most important problem since 2019. This is from Gallup, by the way. Look at these numbers are changing. In a single month, immigration's become the clear leading issue for voters, an 8-point jump in 1 month. Americans realize this is out of control and it's something that can be solved. And many people also are asking why this is even happening. Why is the federal government allowing it to happen? Because they are. Like everyone else, I don't know exactly why or how concentrated the decision making is on this, but it's obvious they're letting it happen. One thing I just learned about this week, which is pretty disturbing, was from Elon Musk. He sent this out the other day, how this new government organization called Tent Partnership for Refugees, it's an NGO, is working with the Biden administration. It's an NGO to organize all these illegal migrants to work legally. Which, if you weren't aware, the work process for illegal migrants changed in the last few years. Most of them can now work legally through this asylum loophole. Basically, what it means is big government and big business are using these migrants for cheap labor. It's reprehensible for a whole host of reasons. Watch this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary, Hamdi, Abdul, colleagues, and guests. It is a great pleasure to be here today and welcome you all on this wonderful occasion when the room is so beautifully decorated. My name is Julieta Valls-Noyes, and I'm Assistant Secretary of State for Population, Refugees, and Migration. Our Bureau leads humanitarian assistance and humanitarian diplomacy at the State Department, and we administer the United States' generous assistance provided by American taxpayers and appropriated by our Congress. I am humbled by this responsibility. For both professional and personal reasons, I am so proud of the initiative that we're here to launch today. Mr. Secretary, I would like to introduce Hamdi Ulukaya. Hamdi is also a devoted philanthropist, and he founded the Tent Partnership for Refugees in 2016. Under his leadership and supported by his team's dedication in the years since, Tent's network today now tops 300 companies. They are all committed to providing tens of thousands of refugees with work, training, and mentorship opportunities.
Here's all the major corporations who've committed to work with Tent, this new entity, to employ these people, committing to give them all jobs, legal jobs. Forget about all the Americans, though, who need jobs, right? Or the legal immigrants who need jobs. It's crazy.
2024, remember, it's our final battle. We're either going to have a country greater than ever before, or we're not going to have a country at all.